Hello, hello. So we are continuing with section 4.1 for Math 60. This is now page 4 or quator, I think. Ms. Mara is around to check. So let's just say that's what it is and we'll go with it. So we're actually going to be working on some actual inequalities and solving them. And I'm also very ahead of time very appreciative of the fact that you don't mention that the green I used for the Hulk might have bled through to this page. We're just going to pretend we don't notice. It's really much more polite to pretend you don't notice these things. Okay, so since this is incredibly small, let me write this out. And I know some of you are saying, why not just bring the camera in closer? And the answer is, well, the camera had a little accident, and now it doesn't really focus all that well. It just focuses in one place, and this is where it focuses. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna go and if the webcam will not come to me, I will go to the webcam. That's a famous quote actually from a book. Okay, so you've got a couple options with this. And unfortunately, in class, I would normally ask you what you want to do with this. Basically, what we got to do is when we've got an inequality like this, we solve it exactly the same way we would solve an equation. I got to bring the y's to one side. And there's going to be a kind of a tug between the folks who want to bring the y's to the left, because that's where you're used to seeing them, and the folks who want to take the y's to the right, because you're going to be avoiding something really nasty. Because I am at my core a cold, black-hearted demon, I'm going to go ahead and move the y's over to the left, because you know what? Destruction and that sort of shenanigans, that's the right word I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 10y from both sides. And again, sides are defined exactly as they are with equalities. An inequality sits in the middle, and we do minus 10y on both sides. Over on the right, we've got negative 4. Over on the left, we've got 16 minus 17y. And we already hate that, I know, because the numbers are not going to work out, and I'm going to regret this. Now, the inequality, we've got to think. The inequality sometimes flips around. You got to remember the inequality flips if you multiply or divide by a negative. We're just subtracting. Inequality stays the same. Now I'm going to go ahead and subtract that 16. Get that 16 over onto the right-hand side. Again, negative 17y, negative 20. And the inequality does not change because I did not multiply or divide by a negative number. I'm going to copy this up here. Negative 17y is greater than or equal to negative 20. And now what I have to do is get y all by itself. So we are going to divide out the negative 17. And there is the magic word right there. Divide by a negative. Since I am dividing by a negative, the inequality, and we're going to do this Dora style. Okay, boys and girls, what happens to the inequality? You're right. It flips around. Oh, isn't that beautiful? The inequality flips. When you divide by a negative number or multiply by a negative number, the inequality flips around and we get something horrible. Y is less than or equal to 20/17. Isn't that lovely? As mathematicians, though, we are not scared of any numbers, even 17ths. I don't know how you would divide something into 17 pieces, but we've got a whole thing and 3 extras. Now, this problem asks us to graph. So 20/17 is positive. So I'm going to go ahead and just write 20/17. Now, this is the sort of thing I allow people to get away with, because I really don't see that there's a lot of good that comes out of making you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, except to prove that you can, count. If you were going to put a 1 in here, it would be somewhere around here, I think. Just write 0 and 20/17. If you want to get more fancy than that, go for it. In my class, you don't need to. Y is going to stay on the left of this. It's got an equal, so I'm going to use that bracket, and I'm going to go to the left. Woohoo, with the idea that some of you are also going to use the closed circle instead of the bracket. Well, I'm feeling pretty good about the world. Shall we try another one? I know. Let's do it. Okay. I know it's I love imagining that you're all screaming, "No, don't do it. Don't do it." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." This makes me incredibly happy. Okay, I've got 3 minus x all over -5 is less than or equal to -2. Now, I will tell you there are ways to deal with this. And when I was first learning this, I spent way too much time trying to avoid multiplying by a negative because I hated it. But here I'm actually forcing you into it. There is a way to avoid it. You're welcome to do whatever you'd like. But I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by -5 just because why not? So I'm going to multiply -5 over 1 to the left and -5 to the -2. Now, why did I suddenly come up with all those parentheses? Parentheses are breaking out all over. Oh, that would be a good song. Anyway, um, so when I've got a bunch of minuses, I use parentheses so that I don't get confused that it's actually subtraction. It also reminds me that I'm multiplying. Notice that over here, I've got a -5 just written as a whole number. Here, I've got -5 written as a fraction so that I can remember, ooh, look at this. Ooh, they cancel. Oh, wow. Now, when I multiplied by -5, what happens to the inequality? You got it. It has to flip around. So the inequality will change. Over on the left, I've got 3 minus x is is greater than or equal to 10. This is very exciting. It's very large. It's bigger than 10. Okay, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Uh-oh, didn't have enough room. So here I'm going to have, I hope that it's not too much to say. Can you guys all see? And again, I can't hear you, so you can say anything. You'd be like, rutabaga. And I'd be like, yes, that's right. Rutabaga. So if I subtract 3, I'm left with the opposite of x here. Remember, we say the opposite of x because we don't know what x is. So we shouldn't call it negative. I mean, that's like, judgmental. We don't know whether x is feeling negative or positive right now. So a minus out in front, we don't know. So I'm going to say negative x. No, I'm not. Let's try that again. I'm sure there's a way to edit this, but I don't know how to do that. The opposite of x is greater than or equal to 7. That came from 10 minus 3. I'm starting to think that maybe I shouldn't drink soda right before I do these. This seems like a bad choice. Okay, live and learn. So now the interesting thing happens. You got a couple options. Believe it or not, some people, me specifically, would at this point add x to both sides and subtract 7 and flip them around so I don't have to deal with this minus. But again, I'm going to say let's it's a brave new world. Let's go ahead and try this. You can multiply or divide by the -1. I'm going to go ahead and take the unpopular choice of dividing by -1. Notice something interesting is happening because this is kind of like the double switcheroo. Once we divide by a negative number, yet again, we are going to have to flip this thing. Oh my gosh, I'm getting dizzy. Notice it's right back to the way it was. So some interesting things are going on here. You could have avoided it. I did warn you to begin with, but you followed my lead, and that was never really a good idea. And I think I end up with x is less than or equal to -7. I really hope so, because if I make a mistake and I make these videos, I would feel really dorky if it turns out that they're not true. Just, write me, yell at the screen. I'm sure that's all good. Okay, watch me not fall for it. -7 is actually on the left of 0. So for my graph, I've got -7 and then 0, and x is less than or equal to -7, so I'm going to be on this side. Ah-ta. Woohoo. I'm feeling pretty great about the world. And of course, things go nicely twice. Then of course we've got the death problem. So let's try it. I've got 6 times the quantity 3r minus 4 times another quantity r minus 1, big bracket greater than 4r. Yeah, okay. So over here on the left, there's a lot of stuff we got to deal with. you want to talk about. We got to this is some serious processing we got to do. This the left side really shouldn't have been in a relationship yet. This left side was not ready to talk to the right side yet because it's got stuff to work out. So really, think about these things ahead of time. Don't come into an inequality when you got your stuff all hanging out like this. Check yourself. Okay, so I'm going to work from the inside out. Notice that my hand never falls off my arm. I'm going to take the -4 through. And this is a little bit tricksy because notice that I get a plus because that -4 comes through. -4 times -1 is +4. Now I'm going to combine like terms. 3 r's minus 4 r's is we've got 1 r. We're short an r. We're going to have to go back to work and earn some more r's. And then I'm going to go ahead, and I don't have any room on top, so I'm going to draw this on the bottom just to be exciting. I mean, it is San Francisco. And I'm going to multiply the 6 through. So I get -6r plus 24. Gosh, I've got a flag in my head that I've made a mistake, and perhaps you already see it. And I don't see it yet, but maybe I'll see it late tonight after I've published this, and I can just feel terrible all night. It's one of my favorite things. Now, here's the thing. Up until now, I've been telling you just to face your demons, but at this point, I don't want to. So since I'm the only one, I can hear right now, I'm going to go ahead and weirdly enough, I'm going to add 6r to both sides of the inequality. Now, adding doesn't change the inequality. I get a 24 on the left and a 10r on the right. So I get 24 is greater than 10r. I still want to isolate r, even though it's weirdly enough on the right. So I'm going to divide both sides by 10. Notice that I always draw what I'm going to do first before the inequality. And then I would say, okay, kids, are we going to change the inequality? You're right. No, we're not, because I'm dividing by a positive number. So this is going to stay a greater than. Let's see. Depending on the setting, let's see. Part of me says I really should leave it as a fraction, but part of me is like, you know what? Let's just do a decimal because, wow, that would make it easy. 2.4 is greater than r. Now I'm going to do something weird. When r appears on the right-hand side, it's really hard to read this. So I'm going to do the switcheroo. I'm going to take the whole thing. Sorry, I got some words stuck in my throat, just sputtered a bit there. I'm going to turn the whole thing around. R is on the little side, 2.4 is on the big side. I'm not changing their relationship. I'm just writing it in the other order. Does that make sense? So that's not like what we did up here. When we actually flip the inequality, like here, the x, oops, you can't see this. It's not helpful. X is on the bigger side, and then suddenly x is on the smaller side. This is not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is r is on the little side, r is still on the little side. 2.4 is on the big side, 2.4 is still on the big side. But this will allow me to graph. R is less than 2.4. So I'm going to have parenthesis, fill that in. Fingers crossed that I got these all right. And even that maybe they made sense. Woohoo, we're almost done. We can do this. Okay, I'm going to see you in just a little bit.